Just going to have to start without Doug. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here this evening for the March 23rd, 2026 Alpharetta City Council meeting. Before we get started, just wanted to note for the record, for those of you that may be here for a case that had been deferred or withdrawn, following items have been deferred and will not be considered this evening. First one is MP-26-05/CLUP-26-03/V-26-03 Empire Old Milton Parkway, Camden Pond. Second is PH-26-04 Unified Development Code Text Amendments, Commercial Vehicles. Third is CLUP 25-05/Z-25-18 V-25-32 McKinley Homes / Morris Road, and MP-26-03/CLUP-26-01 Z-26-01 V-26-02 TPG Brookside West. And the following items have been withdrawn and will not be considered this evening: MP-26-04/CLUP-26-02 Z-26-02/CU-26-02 Moon Valley Regent Partners MP. So if you were here for any of those items, you may have just saved yourselves a few hours in these seats this evening. And I'll note for the record that all members of council are present and accounted for. As always, we begin our city council meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're willing and able, please stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of the City Council meeting, special called meeting minutes from the meeting of March 2nd, 2026, City Council meeting minutes from the meeting of March 2nd, 2026, and ratification of emergency procurement declaration on Quill Road Bridge, ratification of new national opioid settlement, 6 remnant defendants, premises use agreement for Alpharetta Methodist Church in the city of Alpharetta, and the premises use agreement for the Alpharetta Methodist Church in the city of Alpharetta. Is there anyone on council that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Ms. Gorleski, do we have any public comment cards on that?
We do not for this item.
However, if anyone would like to come speak in favor of the consent agenda, now's your chance to say so. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Mayor, move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Drew. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, please vote yes. Councilman Driscoll, and it is unanimous. Ms. Eswine, we'll now be proceeding to the public hearing. Do you mind announcing the public hearing procedures?
An individual requesting to be heard on a matter related to the purpose of the hearing must be recognized by the mayor before addressing the city council. Upon rising to speak, the speaker must identify himself or herself and furnish a home or business address before proceeding with any comments or remarks. The council will allow proponents a total of 10 minutes to speak in support of an application. Opponents will be allowed 10 minutes to speak in opposition. Comments are accepted first from the applicant, followed by persons speaking in favor, and then from those in opposition. Upon conclusion of any opposing comments or presentations, the mayor will allow the applicant to offer a rebuttal if any time is remaining in the originally allotted 10 minutes.
you, Ms. Eswine. First item on our agenda this evening in public hearing is MP-26-01/CU-26-01, Spirit of God Church, Windward Master Plan Pod 16. Mr. Wood, I do believe you have this item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item before you is a request for a master plan amendment and conditional use to allow a church in an existing 18,000 square foot office industrial building. Master plan amendment is requested to the Windward Master Plan Pod 16 to add church as a conditional use, and a conditional use is requested to allow Spirit of God Church to operate a church on the subject property. I have the location map on the overhead. This property is located at 145 Noble Court. Property is 1.62 acres. It's zoned CUP, Community Unit Plan. It has a two-story building on the property. It was developed in 2000 as an office industrial space. The comprehensive land use plan designation of the property is corporate office. As I mentioned, this is located in the Windward Master Plan. And before I go through that, let me just show you some images, street view images of the site. This is a picture of the building from the cul-de-sac at the end of Noble Court. This is the side of the building facing westward. The main entrance to the building is on the side here, and this is the rear of the building. You see a loading dock at the back of the building. As I mentioned, this is in the Windward Master Plan. That master plan was approved in 1980 with a substantial update in 1993. Pod 16 specifically consists of 19 acres. It has a land use designation of business center, which allows office, research and development, and light industrial uses. And as I noted in the staff report, the master plan has been amended on several occasions. I provided quite a number of times the master plan has been amended, specifically calling out pods 56 and 66, which were amended to allow for a church use. This is the applicant's site plan. Again, this request is for Spirit of God Church. It's a non-denominational Christian church with a congregation of approximately 200 members. According to the applicant, approximately 60% of the members attend services virtually. Church is currently holding worship services in the DoubleTree Hotel in Roswell. The applicant is asking to occupy approximately 2,000 square feet of this 18,000 square foot building. The remaining portion of the building will be leased to office industrial users, so it will be continue to be used as it's being used now and in the past. The applicant proposes an assembly area within that 2,000 square foot space with a maximum capacity of 128 seats. According to the application, the church will be open on Sundays, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. There'll be one worship service at 10 a.m. And then church hours on the weekdays, so primarily for administrative offices, would be from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The applicant has indicated after 5 p.m. there would be some Bible study type activities during the weekday. But again, after 5 p.m. when the office industrial users have left the property. The applicant estimates between 5 and 10 church staff. And then the application indicates that improvements to the property will include interior renovations to the space for these 2,000 square foot assembly area. They would also like to restripe the parking lot and then upgrades to the landscaping at the site. We looked at the property as it relates to parking. The UDC requires one parking space for each 2 seats in a church. So therefore, 64 spaces would be required for a 128-seat church. Did go out to the property and also noted on the site plan that there are only 62 parking spaces striped on the property today, so that the church would technically need to be limited to no more than 124 seats based on the existing parking at the site. And that would be to comply with the city's parking requirement for a church. As it relates to traffic, the main worship services will be on Sundays when surrounding businesses are not all operating, and will not have significant impacts on the surrounding road network. And we did look at the review criteria for the master plan amendment and the conditional use. I believe the proposal would be suitable as it relates to the use and development of adjacent and nearby properties, which are similarly developed with office industrial uses. Again, the church's peak trip generation would be on Sundays when surrounding businesses are not operational. And then, of course, as I noted previously, the church has, the master plan, Windward Master Plan, has been amended in the past to allow church in pods 56 and 66. Did do a site visit out to the site, and the dumpster has been removed from its enclosure at the rear of the property. So we are recommending a condition to address that. That dumpster should be housed in an enclosure. And then, as I mentioned, the church should be limited to no more than 124 seats based on the existing parking spaces at the site. The applicant did provide a citizen participation plan. The report indicated that they had received no public comments at that time. Staff had received a number of correspondence from surrounding properties. Their concerns included insufficient public notification, that the church use conflicts with the Windward Business Center Association Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions. Also, we heard negative impact on property values, security concerns. Some felt that there was insufficient parking on the church property. There were concerns about overflow parking onto surrounding properties. And then irregularities and errors were noted in the applicant's application and in the staff report. Windward Business Center Association did not weigh in either for or against. However, they did write a letter asking Planning Commission to defer the applicant's request. As I'll note in the Planning Commission summary, they did honor that request for deferral. This request was shown to the public at the January 14th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments at that meeting. And then Planning Commission considered this request at their February 5th and March 5th meetings. The February 5th meeting, Planning Commission honored the request from Windward Business Center Association to defer the applicant's request to give surrounding properties additional time to review the request. At both of those meetings on February 5th and March 5th, there were public comments, both in favor and opposition. Some of the concerns noted were concerns over parking, compatibility of the church use, and security concerns. At the March 5th Planning Commission meeting, when the item came back for consideration, Planning Commission recommended approval of the applicant's request subject to the 10 conditions in the staff report, and that vote was 4-3. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Woodman? Councilman Hypes?
Mr. Woodman, based on the diagram that's up on the screen, where would the dumpster go?
So the dumpster is currently sitting in a couple of these parking spaces right now. I believe that there's a number of places that they could place the dumpster. This is a driveway. I don't know if they take a vehicle up it, or if it's just to roll things down to the level here, but there's potential that they could place it in this location here. I don't know if this location potentially works. If they were not able to find a location for the dumpster and enclosure and it had to go into parking spaces, then the seating capacity would need to be reduced.
And is that something to be resolved with staff, or is that something that staff would look to council to say this is how we want it handled? I think if you have a pad in the city of Alpharetta, or if you have a dumpster, you have to have a pad, and it's got to have drainage and all the things that go along
Certainly.
with it.
That is correct. Yes, you do have to have those.
So since that's a requirement, and y'all are community development, and they're the applicant and got to show us how they're going to use their property, where do you think, and parking's sort of we got so many spaces here, what are we going to do with the dumpster?
Well, the applicant would have to show us where that would go, and there would be an administrative process that they would have to verify that that complies with our code.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Woodman? Thanks, sir. Would the applicant like to come forward at this time?
It should be on, and it should be plugged in. I'm going to get started as they work on it. My name is Wendy Cray. I'm an attorney, and I am the attorney for Spirit of God Christian Church. I did want to just show a couple other pictures that kind of show some things around the building that would help. This property, the church has it under contract. So the church is going to be the owner and will be the landlord for this building. The property, the building was built in 2001, so it's about 25 years old. It has been on the market for 2 years. As stated, there are 18,000 square feet of business use. Right now, there is 8,000 that is being used for tenants that are currently in the building. Those tenants are intended to stay. And then the church would rent out the remaining 10,000 and then have 2,000 for itself. So most of this building is going to be continued to be used in a business sense. This is an investment for the church. So the church is not intending any material changes to the outside. It's going to look pretty much the way it is, but kind of fixed up. It's a little bit old. They're going to update the landscaping. And as far as parking, there's a finite number of parking spaces, and the church will have to abide by that. That's all there is to it. Did that work? Worked last time fine. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. And have him speak, and then if we get it on, I'll bring it up. Okay. Pastor of the church, Randall Knighton, is going to speak now. If we're able to get these images to work, I'll show them then.
Good evening to the City Council. My name is Pastor Randall Knighton, pastor of Spirit of God Christian Church. My address is 7197 Bellcrest Drive, Johns Creek, Georgia, 30097. We at Spirit of God Christian Church are a small church that has been in Alpharetta for all 22 years of its existence. We are in good standing with the city and have been for all 22 years of our existence. while doing all that's been required of us in this CUP process. We came into this process with the expectation that it would be as straightforward and consistent with our past positive experiences in working with the city. We truly appreciate the time and consideration that the staff and council have given to our application. That being said, as this has progressed, the level and nature of outside opposition has gone far beyond what we anticipated for a request like this. The volume and tone of materials submitted have introduced concerns that do not reflect our history or the reality of our intended use, and navigating that has been both unexpected and at times challenging. We've been met with opposition to our CUP along the concerns that our church would increase crime, especially cybercrime, in an area that has already been hacked long before we considered purchasing the building at 145 North Noble Court. However, even in spite of that, we remain committed to working collaboratively and respectfully through the process, as we trust the city will continue to evaluate our requests based on the facts and our track record and the actual use proposed. We're seeking a CUP for a church, as a church for a building that will be predominantly used as an office space for normal business, just as it is now. This will be an investment and revenue stream for the church through office leases, while the church will use the space, but primarily on weekends. For example, 40 hours out of the week, it will be used for office leases and office space, while less than 20 hours out of the week, it will be used for church use. We plan to lease out up to 16,000 square feet of the 18,000 square feet, but whatever we use for church space will be less than what is used for office leases and space. We plan to keep the current tenants that are there while adding others. Our application is simply regarding the ability to use a space for a church use, yes, but far less than that it will be used for offices or office leases and office spaces. I ask the council, we as Spirit of God ask the council, that you will grant our application for a CUP at 145 Noble Court, as we will continue to adhere to all of the city's requirements, as we have done in every space we've been in Alpharetta for 22 years. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I am Daryl Thompson. I am a 13-year resident of Alpharetta, and I actually live in the Windward community and have the entire time that
I'm
I've
sorry,
been.
sir. This is not the public comment section yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yes, we have the opportunity for our council.
Is that all
to
the
ask
comments from the applicant?
from the
Okay,
applicant.
my apologies. I assumed since you jumped up that you were part of the representation of the applicant. So is there no one else on the team that had any comments about the application whatsoever? Okay, thank you. So you've used up 5 minutes. Would you like, do you want to question the applicants? Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you said staff. Councilman Hypes, you have the floor.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions for the applicant. And you know, I'll preface the question with, you know, the church is going to become, is seeking to become the occupant of this, owner of this building. I want to learn a little bit in terms of the church moving over to this building, what your circumstances are currently. Like where you meet, you're meeting at a DoubleTree right now?
Yes, we're meeting at the DoubleTree Hotel as well. We started out in Northwestern Middle School. We then moved to the Alpharetta Business Center. We had also a property that we were leasing out on Hembry Road. And then after that lease was up, just about a year before COVID, we went to DoubleTree Hotel. And then, of course, during the COVID time, we went primarily virtual, which is where many of our members have a lot of the people who do follow us are virtual.
So the location where you're meeting now, how many folks can you accommodate in person where you are now?
Normally, we have less than 100 people,
And-
service now about 80.
Is it a smaller room and you're?
Well, they put us in a larger room, and the only reason they put us in, which we've never filled up, but they put us in a larger room because of the way the DoubleTree is set up, because of our music. It's away from the rooms in the common area. So it's almost like you can actually enter into it without ever going into the hotel. So they normally just put us there because of the sound. And that's the reason why.
And in terms of, having some more elbow room, does the DoubleTree only accommodate so many people for your services?
Yes, we have enough room to be accommodated. Yes, they only accommodate so much, but we've never had an overflow issue at all.
Also, by way of history and looking forward, I had an opportunity to sit up here to approve that application on Hembry, Upper Hembry. And the application back then was for a main auditorium sanctuary that will seat 300 to 350 people. And so that's what you were anticipating having for an auditorium back then?
Yeah, but that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was prior to COVID.
It was August 24th, 2020. So that's what the date was. So-
Right, yeah. So what happened was once these things happened, and then we saw a decline in membership from an in-person standpoint, but primarily virtual, that's when we also submitted one that was reduced in size.
And I'm trying to understand
Yes, sir.
your congregation, where you've been, where you are, where you're going.
Right.
And in August of 2020, you got approved where you could build an auditorium for 300 to 350 people with an average attendance of 150 to 200 people. And that's from your application back then.
Right.
Now, in your current application, which I'm most interested in for you, it says your congregation is about 200 members, and I see the 60%. There's a current room that will accommodate you for the number of seats that staff is recommending here, the 120, what did we say?
124. 124, I think.
124, yes.
Yes.
So when you move into the facility, there's actually a space right now that would accommodate 124 seats.
Yes. Obviously with just a little modification, but yes.
Yeah. And then you further state in your application, it says, in a few years, we would convert the warehouse into a worship center, and that space that we've been holding as a worship service would be your fellowship hall. And, I'm well familiar with fellowship halls, but you're looking at a bigger space in the warehouse to become your main sanctuary.
Yeah. That is obviously based upon growth, but that is also, we're still going to adhere to the number of seats that we can have. Just because that space, all of it may not be used, that would be the vision, but that doesn't mean all of it would be used totally just for worship.
And that's I'm trying to,
Yes.
square up what you're asking for, what you've been asking for, and there's been a theme for a 300-seat auditorium at some point in the past, and a bigger warehouse auditorium here, and I just want to understand, how big of an audience you'll be entertaining on a Sunday.
I have no idea. but
Entertaining is
here's-
probably the wrong word, so
Yeah,
preaching
well,
to.
No, but here's the one thing that I would want to make sure that the council knows. No matter what we do or how we grow, we will make adjustments to follow and be in accordance with what the city of Alpharetta says we must do. We very easily could go to 4 services, a Saturday evening and 3 services on Sunday, and 124 seats would work. In the event that we grow beyond that building, because it is predominantly a revenue stream and an office place, we'll lease out the rest of it, or we'll sell it and we'll go and buy a bigger place. We have a vision for growth, but it's not the way that I think it's been presented. Our vision for growth is that we will adjust as the growth happens, if it happens, and as you've seen from our application, the growth hasn't happened, it's actually reduced. That's why we reduced the size of the building and even the seating. But in the event that it does, the church has the opportunity to do a Saturday evening service, an 8 o'clock, a 10 o'clock, and 12 o'clock service on Sundays, and accommodate a smaller number.
And I'm trying to be sensitive to comments that I've read in the packet about adjoining neighbors. When you stack those services up, you've got a plan for people entering and leaving, correct?
Absolutely. One of my biggest frustrations when I was in seminary and I would go visit churches is if it was not a way that was done orderly to get people in and get people out so that the parking would be in order. So therefore, if that's a pet peeve of mine, certainly we're going to make sure we adhere to that.
So, I'm really trying to understand.
Yes.
Because I'm a proud churchgoer. And after service, I linger and talk. And sometimes I get early and I linger and talk. And so you end up with one service, and if you want to get 124 more people into your, or 62 more people into your spots, you got to get 62 to leave. Otherwise, if a third of those people stay and linger, you hear where I'm going with this?
I hear exactly what
I
you're
don't
saying.
mean to be preaching
If
here,
you look
but-
back here with some of my members who've been with me for 20-plus years, they are very good at expediting and letting people know it's time to go. Now, normally, many of our people, we've serviced in the Alpharetta area. Most of my people, they either, if we do an early service, I can promise you they're leaving because I got a lot of Falcon season ticket holders. They're trying to make it downtown. I've got a lot of different people that are going different places. People are trying to go eat, things of that nature. But you have to be wise. And so if it became a problem, then 8 o'clock service can be 7:30, and then we can move the 10 to 10:30. We can make the adjustment because we know that that's an issue of which we have to adhere to with the city.
And I'm still focused on your parking, and I'm focused on your dealing with it by adding services. Where, if anywhere, does classroom, Bible study, Sunday school come into play?
Well, normally we just have children's church as a part of our worship in general. And so obviously a room or an office or two in there for that will be utilized on Sunday. But is that what you're asking? I want to
Well,
make sure I'm
I mean,
clear.
you're in service or you're in a study, and
Oh, no. Well, what happens is, yes, the adults are normally in service, but the kids are normally in what we call Sunday school. Well, we call it children's church. It's not prior to service. Like how I grew up. Sunday school was at 9 o'clock and then service was at 11. But for us, we meet at 10 o'clock and the kids go to their area and the adults go to theirs.
so having talked through all this, for my benefit, lay out what, let's say you double your congregation. Tell me what your Sunday morning looks like.
Okay, if our congregation has doubled, then obviously,
Or let's say it's Easter.
or it's Easter.
Everybody brings a friend.
Right. If it is a situation like that where it is Easter, we make sure then that we do a sunrise service. We make sure then that we have opportunities for other services other than the 10 o'clock service. And that alleviates that alleviates the concerns in that. Again, but predominantly of our members are virtual. Many of them are virtual.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time answering my questions. Thank you.
Yes, sure. No problem.
Any other questions for the applicant? Council? Well, let's take questions for the applicant first, and we'll get to staff if you want to circle back. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Rito, did you have a question for staff?
For Mr. Woodman, yeah.
Mr. Woodman?
Two questions, actually. Mr. Woodman, in the staff report, staff provided a list of master plan amendments over the years in the area of the Pod 16 that we're speaking to tonight. And there was 2 churches approved in here. One was in '07, one in '06, and I believe one of them actually left the area recently, or
Correct.
it's no longer there. I'm just trying to level set my mind that if and I understand back then there was different planning commission members and city council members sitting up on the dais, so that may have been the reason that they just decided for whatever good reason to approve those conditional uses for the churches, and they're different pods. So can you tell me the difference between the two pods where the churches were approved in the past, and what is different with this request for pod 16?
Yeah, so the Pod 66, that was the one that was approved in 2007. That was for First Baptist Church. That was never, that was the property that became, was rezoned for Eastgate community, the residential community. So that was never built. It was approved, but it was never built. And then the one that was approved in '06 in Pod 56, that's the Habakkuk Center. They did move into that center. That's a multi-tenant office building / industrial building. They did move in for a short period of time, and then I've heard that there were some issues with them as a tenant at that location, and they eventually did move locations, and they're in South Forsyth, not too far away, but they did move out of that location.
So was
Those,
the,
I'm sorry?
go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just going to add that the Pod 66 and Pod 56 have land use designations established within the Windward Master Plan. I believe 66 has a land use designation of research and development, and 56 has a land use designation of light industrial, and then the applicant's pod is business center. Similar, they're not the same. I had actually incorrectly stated at Planning Commission that they were the same land use designation. They're similar, but they are not the same.
Reason why I asked is I want to see what the difference was between the designations of each of the pods, since two churches were approved in the past. If it was similar,
Yeah.
obviously we'd have to be, take that into consideration, I would think. The other question I had is, you spoke to the deferral before the Planning Commission from February to March. And the Planning Commission, I think, denied this. I think it was 4-3? Is that the right?
They actually, Planning Commission
4-3.
on March 5th recommended approval 4-3.
4-3,
It was a very
okay.
close vote, 4-3.
Very strong. So, and there's a deferral, and I get it, maybe the Business Association would want to make sure that the residents in the area kind of was fully briefed so that they can chime in to their folks that represent them, what their feelings are about the application. But what was, I guess, if you had to, well, two questions. Staff recommended approval of this.
Yes.
So I'd like to understand that a little bit more of why staff is recommending approval, and what the basis of that recommendation was. And then secondarily, why was there such a separation on the Planning Commission from your perspective on the vote, basically almost a split vote?
As it relates to staff's recommendation, so we were supporting this request, is the building was primarily remaining the same as it is today. So it was going to be used primarily for office industrial use Monday through Friday. The church would be primarily conducting their worship services on the weekend when the other businesses, surrounding businesses are not there. So we saw it as an opportunity to bring the church use into that building. It wouldn't have negative impact on the surrounding road network because the other offices are not really operating. There might be some data centers that are continuing to operate, but there wouldn't be a lot of impact on the road network. So that's why staff was recommending approval of the request. I don't know if I can speculate on why a Planning Commission vote was so close. I know that the Planning Commission unanimously deferred the request, so it was a 7-0 vote to defer, and I think they did that at the request of the Windward Business Center. They asked the applicant to meet with surrounding property owners. They had voiced their objection to the request during public comment at the February 5th meeting. And so I think the church, made efforts to meet with the property owners. I don't know, I think that Planning Commission, I don't remember everybody's comments, but I think that there were several that agreed with, some of the comments they were hearing from surrounding properties, that there could potentially be unintended impacts to them. But other than that, I couldn't speculate on exactly why that vote was so close.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Woodman.
Mr. Woodman, this is going to be mostly office and partly church if approved. Based on what I'm seeing here in our code, it's one space for 250 square feet in an office building.
Correct.
So this building can be properly parked up to 15,500 square feet.
So a portion of the building is being used for warehouse storage. So when I refer to this building being an office/industrial building, there's office space in the building, and then it's almost like one of those flex office where you have an industrial portion with it. So there's storage, manufacturing, light manufacturing, warehousing. The warehousing is calculated at 1 per 1,000 square feet. So I think that's where there's a bit of a discrepancy.
That's not in the staff report in terms of how they can park this thing on the office side, or is it?
I did.
If it is,
think
I
had a-
apologize for overlooking it, so.
Yeah, I thought I had in the parking code section, after I discussed the Spirit of God Church, I talk about the 1 per 250 square feet for the office space and the 1 per 1,000
Okay.
square feet for the industrial use.
Related but follow-up. When we take an applicant's word for, we're going to stay in compliance, it's, I don't know that anybody from the city is going to be in there counting chairs. So where's the enforcement mechanism? In other words, in condition number 1, condition number 2, the last sentence says if parking spaces are removed in equivalent, there has to be a balance between that 2-to-1 ratio for parking to number of seats in the auditorium, correct?
Correct.
Now, if that's being violated, what recourse, if any, does the city have?
So if there's violations of code or zoning conditions that are placed on a property and we become aware of it, then we utilize code enforcement to enforce these zoning conditions.
And what's in that toolbox? I mean, do we close a church?
I don't disagree with you that enforcement could be very difficult. We would have to have, complaints that there's even an issue with potentially a violation of the conditions of zoning. But I think that a lot of our conditions are sometimes difficult to enforce.
Ah, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Woodman? Thank you, sir. So if we have no other questions for the applicant, do we have any public comment cards? These will be first in favor. I believe there is 2 minutes and 47 seconds.
I actually have about 5 minutes left remaining because we paused during the
Oh, that's right.
technical difficulties and during the questions.
Okay, so approximately 5 minutes.
5 minutes and 6 seconds.
So do we have any public comment cards in favor of this item?
Yes, we do. Daryl Thompson, if you would come up. If you would state your name and address for the record, and there you go.
Good evening. My name is Daryl Thompson, Darrell. I live at 405 Ridgewood Way here in the city of Alpharetta, and I am a 13-year resident of the city, very proud to live in the great city of Alpharetta. I am also a member of Spirit of God Christian Church, and I'm also an attorney. And we are a simple church full of good people. We are good stewards over every place that we've ever been, and I've been to all except for the Northwestern Middle School. I initially moved here from Los Angeles, California, and had the pleasure to visit a number of churches here in Alpharetta to find a church home for my family. I have a wife and 2 children. One has graduated from Alpharetta High and one who's a junior at Alpharetta High now. We all love attending Spirit of God, and Pastor is passionate. We love that passion about him. I'm going to be brief and just say we truly, truly will be good residents, good stewards, good landlords, and we're just a small church. I heard some of the questions, and they're excellent questions about growth. Those are very real. Those are things that I look at even in our neighborhood in Windward. We recently had, probably about 5 years ago, a new community that became annexed as part of Windward, and we discussed many of those same issues. I can tell you that as it stands now, it would be very optimistic over the course of the next 2 years that we would ever reach probably that 124 cap. But if we did, we're very, very cognizant, we're very intelligent, we will find ways to work with the city. I'll add one last comment. Pastor is a bit shy about it, but his son is actually a member of the Alpharetta City Police Department and has been for a number of years. He works in law enforcement. We're going to take very good care and we're going to follow all the rules. So I just stand here today in support of your approval for the conditional use change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. How much time do we have left?
2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes. Do we have another public comment card in favor of this item?
No other in favor.
However, if you haven't signed up and would like to come forward, you have 2.5 minutes that you can still advocate for this application. Would the applicant like to come and rebut anything?
Can we hold it to the end?
That's part of our typical public hearing procedure, so yes.
Okay. Do we have any public comment cards in opposition to this item?
Yes, we do. First, we have Joshua Scoggins. If you would state your name and address for the record.
My name is Joshua Scoggins with the law firm of Underwood Scoggins. I'm here with my colleague Jessica Cantrell. Our address is 202 Triple Gap Road, Cumming, Georgia 30040. And given Ms. Craby's difficulty, I'm going to hand these out, if you don't mind. Several council members, actually, I'm here on behalf of my clients, Sierra Cedar Companies, LLC, and Alderman Drive Holdings, LLC. We adjoin the western boundary of the subject property, and the council has certainly looked into this because many of you have raised most of the issues that we are concerned about. We have 3 primary concerns. The first is that the restrictive covenants for this section of Windward do not allow this proposed use. And I know that the city has sort of articulated its position that they don't get involved in private covenants. However, imagine the amount of time that's been spent by your staff, by the public, and even if approved, it could be basically vetoed. This proposed use just does not fit. I am never on this side of the equation. I can count on 2 fingers the number of times I'm opposed an application, and this is one of them in 20 years. So it does not fit. The second problem we have, and Councilman Hypes was very astute to bring this up, I don't believe that most of your zoning conditions are enforceable in any practical sense of the word. We're talking about trying to police what area this conditional use applies to within an existing building. We're talking about trying to basically police the parking and also trying to police the number of seats at any given time. That would require someone to, hate to use this term, infiltrate the church and go count chairs. I attend a church that was in a warehouse. in Forsyth County. And the cardinal rule is, if there is nowhere to park, go find somewhere to park. People aren't turned away. And we park up and down the side of Post Road, which is a state highway, whenever we have overflow parking from that warehouse parking lot. And I think that would be the case here. They can have as many services as they want. They indicated only one. But at the end of the day, I don't see anyone turning away a parishioner. Again, we have no issue with the church. I think they fully mean everything they say. But I've seen what happens with zoning conditions and how well they're enforced. And that's not a knock on the city. It's simply very difficult, if not impossible. Finally, the parking availability or lack thereof is a big problem. On page 2 of that PowerPoint that I just handed you, I've outlined these issues. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up too is the fact that we have an entitled site that is an acre larger that was approved for, I believe, a 22,000 square foot building. That was solely for the church's use. And the number of seats that I had was 250. It may be 350. The documents I read said 250. Now we're talking about trying to cram half that many seats into 1/6 of the space. And owning that entire building, and I think the church has admitted this, as they grow, they will continue to expand. And I do not see how we're going to be able to accommodate or enforce by going into that building how many people are attending at any given time. Let's see, I'll try to keep this short since we have other speakers. The map that's shown on page 4 or 5 with the pods in Windward. The yellow there is the subject property, my client's property, right there in the business center pod. That's pod 16 in yellow. Pod 56 in blue is the one that the former tenant religious institution was leasing. They did relocate to Tidwell Road in Forsyth County. We zone that property. Then if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, the red property there, and that arrow should be pointing actually to that tract furthest west. That is where the First Baptist Church was approved. We have 2 CUP approvals with no uses for that use. And that's why we distinguish between this idea that there is a precedent. We can slap cups all over everything. That doesn't mean they're going to locate there or stay there. Also, as far as parking is concerned, we hired Kimley Horn to do a parking analysis of this property. And Councilman Hypes, I know, brought this up, and I think the first speaker did as well. If we had 3 scenarios that we ran calculations on. The first one was if we had 16,000 square feet of office and 2,250 square feet of church space. The second scenario was 11,500 square feet of office and 4,500 of warehouse, and then 2,250 of church space. Scenario 3 was 13,750 square feet of office and 4,500 square feet of church space. If you flip to the last 2 pages of that PowerPoint, you will see what Kimley Horn's assessment, and they are the traffic engineers, have determined with respect to the weekend surplus or deficit, both as it sits on the ground under all 3 scenarios. We would have a deficit of 7 spaces under scenario 1, 10 spaces under 2, and 69 spaces under scenario 3. When you factor in the shared parking calculations that the UDC allows on the last page, notice in red, you'll see that we have a deficiency under scenario 1 of 33 spaces, under scenario 2 of 23 spaces, and under scenario 3, 72 spaces. I appreciate it. That's all I have. At the end of the day, it simply doesn't fit, and we would ask that you deny it. Thank you.
public comment
Yes,
cards
we
in
do.
opposition?
In opposition, yes. Mr. Brian Fees, if you'll come up, state your name and address for the record. Oh, sure. Let's see.
There's only 3 minutes, so I'm just warning you if somebody
Well,
else.
we only
gets-
have one more. Well, we have Georgia Barrow. Okay, sure. All right, come on up, state your name and address for the record.
Council, Mayor, thank you. I had the pleasure of working with the mobile development team, and not on the very early years when it was being done in Virginia, but here. And we set aside 1,000 acres for an office park, business center, and it was to be Class A office building. And we've gone through many real estate cycles, as you know, and some of those buildings are empty right now. But what I do want to say is we already have 2 areas for churches. And to put a third one in there, I think diminishes the value of all of the properties. And I'm also a broker and an appraiser. And when I speak of diminished values, I'm serious. The other thing I want to mention quickly is when Jim Mattoni was on council, he appointed me to code enforcement. And he said, you have to understand the enforcement mechanisms of everything that gets passed. And you have to understand, is it reasonable? And I learned a lot. And Jim was kind of my mentor for a number of years. And here you're bringing up very good points about enforcement. What do you do? So thank you very much.
Yep. If you would state your name and address for the
I'll
record,
go
please.
quickly with my name, Brian Fees. I live at 3695 Schooner Ridge in Alpharetta, which is part of the Windward Development, and I own the building at 1255 Alderman Drive through an LLC. So I'm interested in a member of both associations. Josh, I think, has spoken well about the issues we have. They're primarily around parking. We've asked for a parking calculation to be done. Most applicants include, based on our review of prior applications, a parking calculation. This one did not. And out of frustration, we hired Kimley Horn. Excuse me. We hired Kimley Horn to do an evaluation. 2.52 of the city's code addresses shared parking. And it says very straightforward. You add the dual uses or the separate uses, and the city can reduce the combined total by 25%. The approach that Urban Land Institute uses, which is what Kimley Horn did in one of their scenarios, allows a higher reduction. So we've provided that for you, and in neither of those associations is there sufficient parking for this building. I think the other thing...
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. That's time. So the council can extend equally for both sides or leave it at the 10 minutes. But if you choose to extend, it needs to be for both the proponents and opponents.
Is there will of council to adapt?
I move to extend for 2 more minutes, maybe. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
Anybody object to 2 more minutes?
I'll try to get done shorter than that. So parking is issue number 1. Number 2, also related to parking, is whether there is parking allowed on Noble Court. Noble Court, if it is parked on both sides, becomes a hazard because you can't get a fire truck in. It's a narrower street. Within Windward, it's not a dual lane. And our understanding, and we have not been able to get clarification from the city, when I say our understanding, it's the adjacent building owner's understanding is that parking is not allowed on Noble Court, but we haven't gotten clarification. So that's one of the first spillover places. The other spillover places are the open parking lots for my neighbors' buildings, where those are open on the weekend. So At a minimum, those people would have to invest in traffic control to protect their properties from being overparked when they're not in operation. I think the last issue I would make didn't come up is that the applicant submitted a revision for their Hembree road play, Upper Hembree Road location just in late 2025. And so it's worth looking at that. It had a proposed usage much higher than what is for this site. It was somewhere between the original 250 sanctuary and this. So there's a more recent pattern that shows intention, I think, and would support our concern that this spot is not sufficiently parked currently and could become overwhelmingly parked with the passage of time. So with that, I'll thank you for your time and all your work, and I appreciate it very much, and glad to have an opportunity to talk. Thank you.
Ms. Eswine, did the 2 minutes go back to the public or to the applicant?
So the applicant, when the time for rebuttal comes, will have 4.5 minutes left because they get the equal extension. There are 18 seconds left if there's anybody else who wants to speak in opposition.
Anyone who wants to speak in opposition?
Yeah, there's 18 seconds left.
If there is anyone, do we have any other public comment cards?
There are no further comment cards.
However, if there's anyone that would like to come and speak in opposition, now is your chance to do so.
So now there was originally 2.5 minutes left for rebuttal for the applicant, but with the extension of the 2 minutes for both sides, the applicant can now come forward for rebuttal for 4.5 minutes.
Pardon?
The applicant has 4.5 minutes now for a rebuttal.
Okay, so the applicant or somebody on your behalf?
Hi, I just wanted to address a couple of things. One, whatever Mr. Scoggins has given you, we do not have a copy of that.
None of us have had a chance to read it either.
I was afraid it was more.
I'll just hit the 3 issues. One, restrictive covenants. Restrictive covenants for that community, it is irrelevant. Restrictive covenants are a private agreement between parties, and whether or not they're enforceable, it matters whether or not they're lawful. In this case, the attorney for the Property Owners Association, who I've talked to numerous times, has said the POA does not have a comment on this. On parking, my client is not quite sure what the issue is. One thing to point out is that this is parking on the weekend when most businesses are not around. Second, the property across, which is the Sierra Cedar property, is not accessible from Noble Way. There is a group of trees, there is a property line, there's land, and over on Sierra Nevada's property, there's a bunch of outdoor storage. No one could get their car over there if they wanted to. Parking is not allowed on the cul-de-sac. The parking that is on the site is something that my client will have to work with. Like any church, if they have more people than parking, they can add another service. Right now, they have a 10 o'clock service. They can add an 8 o'clock service. And last, what happened on Upper Hembree Road where they're looking at another site, unfortunately, was just too expensive. They had lost membership, they didn't have the members or the money. It's in this world we are in after COVID, it made much more sense to go with a building that's already there. This one has been on the market for 2 years. They can make it work, and it's also a way for them to have an investment and to be a landlord. Anything else where you're saying that they're not going to follow parking, that they're going to grow, what they may or may not do in the future, that's nothing but speculation. That's all.
Open it up for 1 minute and 29 seconds for opposition, or?
No, the procedure allows for the applicant to rebut during the time remaining, and she's finished, I believe, so that would close the public hearing at this time.
Okay. So that, yes, you may ask staff another question, Councilman Hipes.
It's for the applicant. When landlord leases out the office space to make good on its investment, and those office workers who have their own leases, their own businesses, need to come in on the weekend to work. How do you account for that? I know plenty of lawyers who go in on the weekend to work.
Remember that they're going to be a landlord, and they're going to have to make their tenants happy. They're going to have to make a situation for parking that works. That's part of their business plan.
Okay. That, respectfully, that doesn't address my question. My question is, you've got 16,000 leased space, you got a church service going on, and there's a do-or-die project that's got to get done that weekend, and 40 people have come in for the 60,000, or the 16,000 space, your other tenants, and you got 40 people there. In what world can you control when the tenants come in and don't come in? That's my question.
Well, they will be the landlord. That certainly is something that we could write into the lease to let them know and give some head time. We don't know that it'd be 40 people or two people or 4 people.
Yeah.
It's part of having to deal with, what do you do if there's not enough? Right now, they have about 60 members coming. That's about 30 cars. They're not very close to being full at this point.
Okay, thank you.
May I address that as well? When we were leasing out of the Alpharetta Business Center, which I know is torn down now, when we had Sunday service, there were other businesses that were there also having business. And we had service, they had business. It was the same concept that you're presenting now. It's just that they understood that the church was there. It was Sunday, we were there. They went ahead and went about their business, and we went about ours.
Does the council need any more questions or anything? All right, so we can go ahead and conclude the public hearing portion?
It's already concluded, yes.
Okay, thank you. So we've had public comment, we've had the applicant, we've had the opposition. Do I have a motion from council?
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor, to approve MP-2601 CU 2601 Spirit of God Church as presented by staff this evening.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We don't have a second, so the motion fails for failure of a second. Do we have any other motions?
Ms. Reed, you want to go?
I make a motion that we deny this application. Do I have to list the whole thing out? I'm sorry.
Couldn't hurt.
I'm so sorry. I would make a recommendation that we deny MP-26-01/CU-26-01 Spirit of God Church/Windward Master Plan Pod 16.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second it with one additional add-on to your motion to include subject to the following
Friendly
conditions.
amendment? Are you asking for a friendly
A
amendment?
friendly amendment to your motion. Just to add Second it, but add the language at the end of subject to the conditions presented by staff.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt. I think the Commissioner, or Councilman Reeves made a motion to deny, which wouldn't require conditions.
Oh, you're right, sorry.
So were you seconding motion to deny?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a motion to deny and a second to deny. Any discussion? Councilman Dorito?
This was a tough one, I think, for all of us up here. And I always like to try to explain my votes. The city's changing rapidly. As just since this is starting my 5th year and my 2nd year around on the city council here, and we're seeing a lot of rapid change. And we see a lot of requests to rezone properties that are outlined under the comprehensive land use plan that, or in these master plans around the city, which this one is in the Wynwood business area, this master plan. And a lot goes into developing those master plan communities to create the environments to attract economic development in the city, which also brings investment. City. It does also impact various religious congregations in a very positive way, thank God, because we need more and more of that. I think the pastor and his congregation has done a great job in growth and has been here in 22 years in the city, and I thank God for that, because I think the more religion we have, particularly in today's environment, is a good thing. We're almost experiencing a resurgence of that around the nation, which is a great thing as well. So what makes the decision tough is we're talking about a religious congregation here who needs space to practice religion, which is a very easy thing to support. But at the same time, as far as the way I feel of my responsibility representing the entire community, I'm very adamant, I've spoken about other applications as well, as upholding the comprehensive land use plan and these master plans that have been developed with a lot of time and investment and money for many years in the city by many people in Alpharetta. When I take a look specifically at this, I asked about the other 2 churches that were approved way back when. But the classifications of those pods were different from this. This is a business center pod. And I believe there's also 2 schools that were denied. I don't know why, but my guess would be because of the parking, because of the, lack of them not being business-centric, focused on developing the business area near Wynwood over there. And I'm a big believer that we have to be extremely careful in reducing our office capacity in the city. One of the things that has made this city, frankly, an economic powerhouse, an attractive place to both live and raise your families, and it's not only a good school system here, but it's the hard work and effort of many volunteers that have, designed and followed through on the development of a city that we're sitting in today, that all of us should be proud of. And so if we were to erode the master plans without really good justification to do that, I think we would be undermining the future of the city as far as sustaining the great city that we reside in today. And so this is an office building. And yeah, it may not be fully utilized today, but things are changing. I know I work as a global partner, and I deal with a lot of businesses around the world, particularly in the United States. despite what you may hear on the business channels and whatever you're reading, there is a resurgence of investment in the United States. And I do think we're coming out of the pandemic era, and it's going to take a little bit more time, but the increase of the use of office space is going to be a requirement. And we have been successful in this city because if you look next door to Roswell, they have about 2 million square feet of office space. We have 20 million. Johns Creek has 6.5 million. And so people come to Alpharetta because we have a good use of various things that attract people to not only work here, but live here, play here, and send their schools to church here and send their kids to the local schools. And so I'm very sensitive in changing master plans without really good business justification, and also, I like to uphold the comprehensive land use plan as well that many in the city has helped design. We're going through a whole update process now with a lot of community input as well. So this is a tough one for me because it's a church, and I love what this church has already done and accomplished. But it's hard for me to convert office space in a business district of the city into a use of a church, because I think that not only opens up potentially an avenue for other conditional uses and try to use this as a precedent, but I want to sustain the business areas of the city, and if they have to go through conversion, that they go conversion in the way business is going in the country, and that Alpharetta stays in the forefront of investing in the businesses and the jobs that sustain the city and keep the tax ratables at a steady level that this city has done for the last 18 years. So I hope that explains my vote to deny this.
So I agree. I lived in Windward for 30 years, and I voted in favor of this church at least twice, and there may have been a change somewhere in between those two. So it's not anything against the church. I'm disappointed if people have given you the wrong impression of how they received this. I didn't see any of it. I'm not denying it may have happened. But from my perspective, I just want to share the overall vision that I have. And so I've seen, like I said, I lived in Windward for 30 years. My wife used to she practically lived there in that Windward Plaza office building. She worked for Synchrony Bank for most of the time that we lived in Windward. And so I spent a lot of time there. And I want to share the perspective that I have over the long haul is, as Ms. Barrow mentioned, Windward was an amazing development in the development of a city of Alpharetta. She didn't go into a great amount of detail, but it was the truly first large-scale mixed-use development that a lot of thought and money were put into. They created 2,400 homes, a golf course, 7.5 million square feet of office space just in the Windward district, I believe it is, around 7.5 million. They have the residential, they've got the retail there at Windward Plaza. It has all of those mixed-use ingredients that you find condensed at Avalon and many of the other places like Halcyon and around the city and the state now. But it was really thoughtfully designed. All those components were meant to complement each other. And I say that because when COVID hit and my wife's company pulled 800 people out of that office building, it was practically a ghost town. And so it negatively impacted all of those retail establishments and the hotel and the restaurants and the hair cutting places and all of these things that were amenities not just for that building or that office park, but the entire Windward corridor. You know, if you watch the Business Chronicle as often as the headlines I do, you'll see Windward, most of the time, it shifts. I don't know why it shifts from month to week or whatever it is, but many of the times you see a Business Chronicle highlight, and it says the largest office park in metro Atlanta is Windward. That's incredible to think that way out 40 years ago, when Atlanta was booming, that they had put together an investment team that saw if they could just blend great residential, great amenities, and all of those things, it could be a catalyst for Alpharetta, and it has been. So I don't dismiss the fact that changing these uses can have an impact that may not be positive in general. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Continuum Project. If you're familiar with Cabernet Restaurant, you know that Hewlett-Packard used to have that large office building, and now it's been converted into a mixed use to incorporate the same kind of things that Windward Plaza has. When we went to the Urban Land Institute and asked them, what can we do to re-energize the Windward corridor, not just this office development, but that whole corridor, that 7.5 million square feet, all the way to the city of Milton, because they were participating in that as well. And what all of these great urban design people came to Alpharetta and recommended was doing some of the things that we're already doing at Continuum. Fortunately, we had a huge investor, a talented group that came to us, had been successful in Nashville and the Gulch areas and some other developments. And they said, if we can change that parcel from just being open parking lots and a big 1988 probably built office building, if we can change that into a more engaging piece of property, that 45 acres can have residential, it can have a hotel, it can have townhomes, so people can actually live there and work in that building. We had that at Windward Plaza, and we can have it again. We have the plans, the types of amenities, the ways it could be. What we haven't had is a property owner that was willing to do it yet. And so my concern is, I think we're short-sighted if we start to agree with what Councilman Dorito said. We've got a huge opportunity to make that an attractive part of the Windward business development whole project. And I just don't think that this is a good use for that. It's nothing against the church, and I understand. It's expensive to buy land for a church in Alpharetta. It's expensive to buy land for a house in Alpharetta. But that's because we've created such an incredible place that so many people want to be here. So that's a long way just to give you a lot of background about how I feel about it. We have to, one other piece of evidence in my mind is, we had a company come to Alpharetta and want to build a mixed-use development on Old Milton Parkway at Brookside Park. That company had never built anything outside the city of Atlanta. They've been hugely successful in building projects in Atlanta. And they've come here to do their first mixed-use opportunity outside of the city of Atlanta limits. And one of the things he said to Reese in a discussion I had with him a few weeks ago, he said, you have to understand that big office parks, Windward's 7.5 million, city of Alpharetta has roughly 20 million square feet of office space. That's what made this city what we are. That's why we don't have enough housing for all the people that work in our office buildings and things like that. But his point was, people don't understand. When he talks about other investors that haven't really started investing on those types of projects outside of the perimeter, he said, you don't understand. There's never going to be those giant office parks north of Alpharetta. Lots is getting developed north of Alpharetta. It's booming up there. That's why they're doing all these road expansions and all the different exits and things like that. But the further you get north from Alpharetta, it's too far from people to get to the airport. He said, we've got a crown jewel here. We better appreciate it and protect that, because once we start losing all of those office parks, we no longer have the economy, the activity, the results, and we're not supporting those environments like the restaurants and the small businesses that rely on those office buildings. So it's nothing against the church. God bless you, and I hope you find something. But I can't think of where it would be in Alpharetta other than the church that you did have under contract. But I wish you the best. I've spoken long enough. All those in favor of the motion to deny, please vote yes. And it does pass 6-1. So the next item will be Z-25-10/V-25-22, Levitan 75 and 91 Roswell Street. Mr. Woodman, once again, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The next item before you is a request for rezoning and variances to allow 8 for-sale single-family dwellings consisting of 4 semi-detached units and 4 detached homes on approximately 1.2 acres in the downtown. The proposed density is 7.15 dwelling units per acre. Rezoning is requested from C2 General Commercial to DTC Downtown Core, and there are variances to modify downtown streetscape standards. I have the location map on the overhead. This property is located at 75 and 91 Roswell Street, northwest corner of Marietta Street and Roswell Street. The property located at the corner is undeveloped. The northern property is developed with a residential structure that has been converted to an office. You may be familiar with this property because in 2023, the property was approved for a 2-story, approximately 23,000 square foot office building with 2,500 square foot restaurant. The comprehensive land use plan designation of the property is Central Business District, which does support the applicant's requested rezoning. As I mentioned, there are variances to modify downtown overlay streetscape standards. The variance is requested along Cotton Alley, Marietta Street, and Roswell Street, and the applicant is asking to maintain the existing streetscapes. So on all 3 of those streets, each street has a 2-foot planter. And then on Roswell Street, there's a 6-foot sidewalk. On Marietta Street and Cotton Alley, there are 5-foot sidewalks. This is the applicant's proposed site plan. It depicts 8 single-family lots. Access is from a private alley, and that alley has access from Roswell Street. There was the initial site plan that was submitted to the city. This alley had access from Cotton Alley. The neighboring community that shares that street, Victoria Square, did not support access from Cotton Alley, so the applicant did amend the site plan to move it back to Roswell Street. That is also the same access that was depicted with the office building that was approved. The access was from Roswell Street. There are 5 homes oriented to Roswell Street, 3 oriented to Cotton Alley. The lots range in size from 2,600 square feet to 4,300 square feet. Average lot size is 3,150 square feet. Both product types, the semi-detached, which is basically a duplex, 2 units sharing a wall, as well as the single-family detached homes, are 3 stories over basement. There's a 10-foot setback and landscape strip along Roswell Street and Cotton Alley. And there is a tree save area and amenity area at the corner. There are 4 trees depicted to be saved in there, including specimen trees. There's a note on this site plan. There are overhead utilities, power in this vicinity, and they cross Roswell Street about in this approximate area. The note on the site plan indicates that the overhead utilities will be relocated. That would be to resolve a conflict of our required landscape strip plantings. Each of the units will have 2 side-by-side parking spaces within a garage as well as a code-compliant driveway. The downtown code requires 20 parking spaces for this community, and the applicant has accommodated a total of 32 parking spaces. As I mentioned, the amenity area at the corner, it's 5,000 square feet, primarily a tree save area, although there are areas that could be used for the community. That represents 10% of their site. The DTC zoning district requires a minimum 5%, so they do comply. The applicant shows on the site plan an underground detention in this area here. However, they have indicated to us that they are in the process of speaking with Victoria Square, and their intention is to get an agreement with Victoria Square to have their stormwater in their pond. So apparently there's excess capacity in that pond, so the applicant is in conversations with Victoria Square and may have some additional updates this evening. That pond is located about 1,000 feet to the northwest of this location. Show you some of the renderings that they've submitted. So they've submitted renderings. These renderings are from David Grace, the same architect that did the 1858 on Cumming Street. These are obviously the detached product. And then there are some color renderings. I believe this is depicting Roswell Street. And then this is a view down the alley. The renderings reflect Tudor eclectic architectural style, which is an approved style in the downtown. The exterior materials include brick, stone, and half timbering. And the downtown consultant did review the renderings and believes that they generally comply with the downtown design regulations. The applicant submitted a trip generation report indicating that the 8 homes would generate approximately 6 a.m. peak hour trips and 8 p.m. peak hour trips. The change of use from the office and restaurant that was approved on the property in 23 to the residential would result in a reduction of approximately 53 a.m. peak hour trips and 48 p.m. peak hour trips. Then, of course, we looked at the review criteria for the rezoning and variance. We believe the proposal is consistent with the vision of in the downtown master plan and the future land use designation of the property. The proposed residential use is compatible with Victoria Square, and access has been moved from Cotton Alley to Roswell Street in an effort to limit impacts on Victoria Square. And as I just noted, the proposal would have less impact on transportation facilities compared to the office. We also noted that the property has exceptional conditions due to its size, shape, and topography. The property has 3 road frontages. The downtown streetscape requirements potentially would impact the tree save area at the corner, as well as the existing brick sidewalk and brick wall along Cotton Alley. So let me go back to the site plan here. So the existing sidewalk along Cotton Alley, and there's a wall right behind it, are brick. If this were removed to comply with the downtown streetscape requirements, those would be, if they would be public assets, so they would need to be concrete from a maintenance standpoint. And it's our understanding that Victoria Square would like to maintain the existing brick sidewalk and brick wall. The applicant provided a citizen participation report indicating that they had received public feedback regarding traffic access, construction staging, guest parking price points, and architecture. Staff also received correspondence from residents in Victoria Square who supported residential use on the property but had concerns over access through Victoria Square. All of Victoria Square's roads are private, with the exception of Cotton Alley, which is a public street. So if the access had been maintained from Cotton Alley, the only way for these residents to exit or leave this community would have been through the private streets of Victoria Square. Again, the applicant did amend the site plan and they moved the access to Roswell Street. At the September 10th CZIM meeting, there were public comments with concerns over access, construction, staging, landscaping, removal of bamboo on the property, and a desire for the development to be incorporated into Victoria Square. Again, those comments were received at a time where the site plan depicted access from Cotton Alley. And then Planning Commission considered this request at their March 5th meeting. There was one public comment in favor, and that was based on the applicant changing the site plan, changing access. And Planning Commission recommended approval. It was a unanimous vote, 7-0, and it was subject to the 26 conditions in your staff report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that, but that concludes the presentation.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back up a little bit. You mentioned stormwater, and it was contingent upon approval, so they don't have approval currently?
So they're showing underground stormwater to comply with our codes on the property, but the applicant has told us verbally that a stormwater, if they can get a Victoria, it's acceptable.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think the original moves yes to the end in the corner, or very well at the corner, like where is a sidewalk being pushed out to the street, because now you're pushing everybody out to that street, and it's a little nerve-wracking because the camber and the curve of the road comes, and you feel like a car is directly in line with you when you're coming around there. So it's a feeling of safety, but it's a very walkable environment. So I'm worried about the sidewalk, and I know you got a couple of trees there. I'm not sure. I know we talk about critical root zones, but 4 inches deep for a sidewalk, I don't think really, I don't know what that impacts to those two trees there, but what's the reasoning behind the sidewalk kind of moving out?
So the applicant had requested to maintain the existing streetscape along Roswell Street, since we're specifically talking about Roswell Street. The staff recommendation in the condition, and it's condition number 6, and that recommendation was carried forward by Planning Commission, was to ask for a minimum 4-foot planter. So there's a 2-foot planter there today. So we're asking for that planter to be expanded, which would push the sidewalk further away from the roadway. So while we're supporting the applicant's variance requests with the one exception to the planter on Roswell Street, we are not supporting that part of it.
Okay, so what I'm looking at in the site plan is not actual.
I believe what the applicant is showing maybe is that the sidewalk, they're jogging the sidewalk maybe closer to the road, but they are here this evening and maybe can address that
So it
question.
it goes from a 2-foot planter to a 0 planter, and then into a 5-foot sidewalk. So you go down all the way to the corner. That's what I'm referencing. Yeah,
Yes.
those trees right there, the sidewalk is pushed out directly to the street. There's no planter there. The sidewalk gets reduced. The question is why?
Yeah,
And-
they're showing 2 foot and it goes down to 0. I
Correct,
would-
and the sidewalk
applicant
goes
would-
down 6 foot to 5 foot. So it's right there in the congestible area as well.
Yeah.
Kind of wraps it. And the reason why I'm saying that, we all walk right there, and it's just a big deal. Everyone's worried about that corner and what's going on, especially the walkability and how you feel. So, thank you.
I mean, it could be potentially related to the tree saves in this area. The applicant certainly could address that, but we do have construction techniques where you could build that sidewalk without negatively impacting those trees.
Thank you.
Councilman Hypes.
Mr. Woodman, the Pocket Park, also shown on the landscape plan as the common area park, is that going to be open or enclosed for the development itself?
So the requirement for this property in DTC would just be amenity space. So the space would have to be open to just the residents of this development. It's not civic space that has to be open to the public. That question, there was similar questions about that at Planning Commission. I believe the applicant was open to allowing this area to be open to the public, but I don't want to speak for them, but we had some discussion about this at Planning Commission.
Well, I don't know if they can hear me or not, but the whole idea where across from the nest, they gated off that little corner very similarly, seemed very unfriendly. It's their property. It's their property. Just didn't seem very neighborly.
Yeah. Yeah, that was at the Georgian, and the
Yeah.
Georgian has different zoning, didn't have requirements for amenity or civic.
But because how that action over at the Georgian struck me as a resident of Alpharetta, I didn't know if this has been discussed with staff as to how that little corner pocket park is going to be handled or amenities or whatever's going to happen there.
There's no specific information given by the applicant for that.
Well, they heard my question. Maybe they'll have a chance to address it. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Woodman? I take that as a no. You must have done a good job. Thanks, sir. Would the applicant like to come forward?
Hopefully, we won't have technical issues. Because I did not bring hard copy. There we go. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Chris Owens. My address is 7425 Mid Broadwell Trace in Alpharetta, Georgia. I'm the civil engineer for the project, and I'm here tonight to represent the applicant and the property owner. They are with me. The owner is Jeff Levitan. Jeff is here tonight, and his partner, Jason Joseph, is here with us as well. As usual, Michael's done a fantastic job presenting the application. I just wanted to go over a couple things, and I heard some questions, and I believe I have answers for those, and hopefully we can get those concerns resolved. Let's see. Just like Michael, I'm going to start with an aerial view of the site there at the northwest corner of Marietta Street and Roswell Street. And we're all familiar with that. And Mr. Brady, I know you walk by it regularly. I'm guilty of driving by something 5 times a day, and then if you asked me what was there, I couldn't tell you. So I took the liberty of taking a few pictures just to remind us of what's out there. So this picture standing at the corner of Pure Taqueria and looking across the intersection of Roswell Street and Marietta Street. And I don't know exactly how long ago, but Public Works turned this into a 4-way stop not too long ago. And my opinion and my experience there, it has significantly improved safety for traffic as well as pedestrians. So I'm glad to see that implementation has been successful. And as you can see in this picture diagonally across, the city just finished a segment of the Alpha Loop on the east side of Roswell Street, going from Old Milton up into downtown. This is looking directly across Marietta Street at that corner that Mr. Brady was talking about. And I will get to the site plan, but our proposal is to leave the streetscape as is right here, not to push the sidewalk closer to the street. The reason being, as you can see, the grade in that proposed pocket park is higher than the sidewalk. If we push the sidewalk into it, we will be damaging the tree roots, and we would like to save that. There are 4 significant trees, but as you can see, there are many more trees there being saved besides those 4 on the site plan. The bamboo would go. Don't ask me how to get rid of it. That's beyond my pay grade, but it would go and is not part of the plan landscape. And as you can see, just a bit of a hint there of looking down Cotton Alley. The reason that we're asking for a variance on this streetscape is to leave this alone and leave it like it is. Victoria Square preferred that. We would prefer not to have to rebuild it with lesser materials. It's a brick sidewalk with brick wall. We may have to extend that wall, but our intent is to match that material, and I've got some photographs of that to show you what that might look like. And again, this is looking along the project frontage, and Michael mentioned there's overhead power. You can see it coming overhead and hitting a pole there and then going further up Roswell Street. I met with Georgia Power, asked them about burying that overhead power, and they said sure, but they would want to do it in a much larger area than just in front of our property, and it would be very expensive. They're very proud of it, and they've given us a big number just to move the poles around a little bit, and that's not cheap, but we are showing that. So that's the horizontal relocation to make it work with street tree plantings that staff has asked for. And this is a wider view of that, excuse me, of that overhead power and those utilities. And as you can tell, it's not just power. AT&T, Comcast, and I believe even the city has some fiber up there on those poles as well. And then this is looking back at Victoria Square in that pocket park from the other side of Roswell Street. Michael has shown you this site plan, 8 units, 2 of them duplex, 6 of them freestanding homes. Be a unique product in downtown. And let's see if I can get, the eclectic Tudor was a style that was mentioned. These are the, again, you've seen these, the black and white as well as the colorized version of those kind of bring them to life. David Grace, A Classical Studios, done several projects here in downtown, and his skill and his talent are certainly shining. Forgive me, this view was from Cotton Alley, from the original concept of access to Cotton Alley. Of course, that would not be there, but I wanted you to see what that looked like from the rear. And here is a site plan that, as Michael said, but I highlighted that power pole or power line, and this is the new location that we're proposing. And that's not coming cheaply from Georgia Power, but what it does allow us to do, as you can see, it does allow us to comply with the staff's request of a 4-foot beauty strip and a 6-foot sidewalk in the area where we're improving for the homes. Once we get to the pocket park, we're asking to retain the existing streetscape, which is 2 feet beauty strip, 5-foot sidewalk around the corner, and then keeping that brick sidewalk on Cotton Alley. The reason being, in order to preserve those trees, as you can see, several of those significant trees are right up on the back of the existing sidewalk. If we widen that sidewalk, those trees would have to be removed. This is a colorized version of the landscape plan for that site plan. And as you can see, the pocket park, we are reserving some space. Mr. Merkel, you asked about stormwater. We've had discussions with Victoria Square, positive ones. We did a study, we actually did survey it there with their permission. We verified the pipes between us and their detention pond have the capacity to get our water down there. We also checked their pond, and there's excess capacity in that pond to serve Victoria Square and this development. Victoria Square has, since that conversation, had the opportunity to have our opinion independently verified, which has been done. So I expect an agreement will go into place. This development will compensate them some measure, and then there will be some shared maintenance going forward by both HOAs. That, to me, is a better solution for the community as well as homeowners here, rather than having independent systems that are buried out of sight, out of mind. The Victoria Square system is above ground and can be better maintained and in a concentrated position. It's one less system to take care of. If that agreement cannot be reached, we've reserved space on the site plan to do that underground, but we would rather not. I believe a question was asked about accessibility of that park. The intent is to allow that park to be accessible by the public. One thing that we would reserve the right, as you can see, Unit 5 here abuts the park, and the private alley comes down. The plan is to have the community mailboxes at the end of the alley. Those would be accessible by foot. I mean, it's a small community. You'd have to walk past 4 homes to go check your mail. But we would want to reserve the right to put a fence up alongside Unit 5 just to keep the public from wandering from the park into the neighborhood, but have a gate there that the residents could walk out and go enjoy the park or go walk to dinner. And as you can see, Michael mentioned that, that existing brick wall. I have a picture of that here on top, and showing what we can do landscape-wise to help soften that wall. And if we had to extend it, then we would be able to soften it so that Victoria Square sees what they see today, but with a little more landscaping than what they have out there now. There was a question, I believe, from the city traffic engineer that at the end of the alley, how would we keep cars from, jumping the curb, that type of thing. One of the things that was discussed at Planning Commission that we went and did a little homework is to use a wooden type guardrail to keep cars where they belong. And the best example I could find of that was in the city at Rucker Road and Charlotte Drive. Public Works used that, and that top picture there is showing that wooden guardrail set back in the landscape, and that color of wood, the wood is weathered and has sort of blended into the landscape and will sort of disappear. It won't be in your face like a galvanized guardrail typically would be. So we're looking at that product as well if needed, and the bottom picture is just a better example of the product up close. Trying to remember if any other questions that were asked that we didn't address. I believe that's got it, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to make myself available. Oh, I do want to bring up one point about the streetscape on Roswell Street. So as you can see by that red line, we're putting the power out to the street so we can preserve some space between the curb and the homes for landscaping and trees. The other option would be to push the power lines closer to the homes, which nobody wants, and also it would still limit how much we could plant out near the street. So one of the conditions does say that we need to have 15 feet from the power line to a tree and 15 feet from the tree to the face of the home. We're able to accomplish that on between units 4 and 5. We're actually like 34 feet from the power line to the face of the homes there. Between units 2 and 3, the best we can do is 24 feet. So we would ask for some flexibility from the council to let us work with staff to put the appropriate plantings in there so that we don't have a condition that ties our hands. But that was the only other item I had, and I would leave myself and leave some time open for questions.
Councilwoman Brady.
So, Mr. Jones, I'm trying to just confirm with you then, because I think number 6, and I know you have some other pieces of number 6 here. So number 6 is 4-foot planter all along Roswell Street with a 6-foot sidewalk.
That's the condition as written. As I said, we're asking for it to be 4-foot planter, 6-foot sidewalk up to the Pocket Park. Okay. And beginning at the Pocket Park, around the Pocket Park and up Cotton Alley, we would like to preserve the existing streetscape.
And what is the width of this, the sidewalk there today?
5 feet.
Is it? That little small sidewalk's 5 feet?
Mm-hmm.
That little sidewalk's 5 feet?
I would not have normally measured it, but all this discussion is I did go out and check. It was surveyed. It's not just a picture, but I did verify that.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Most of us don't feel, I mean, you're going to walk in a straight line down a 5-foot sidewalk, especially if somebody's coming.
Yeah, it feels like a 3-foot
Yeah,
sidewalk.
but again, I'm not to be dismissive of your concerns at this corner, but let's go back to that photograph if you don't mind.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is important that the applicant has agreed to is here we have the Alpha Loop on the other side of Roswell Street. That sidewalk is 12 feet wide. And one of the things the applicants agreed to is to enhance that existing crosswalk across Roswell Street, to highlight it with the Alpha Loop green and add some signage there to draw people over to that wider sidewalk. Will people walk on the side of Roswell Street? Of course they will. We expect that. But also, we do believe that people will migrate over to that wider sidewalk into the Alpha Loop.
And where does the decorative lighting going in? The lighting I know Marietta Street's got to be all of 10 feet on this.
You mean the street lights?
Yeah, street light. There's a.
They'll go in the beauty strip alongside that if the power company will allow it. If not, it'll be right behind the sidewalk.
Does it kind of loop into Roswell Street? Does it kind of come up along there by that tree?
You're talking about street again. Make sure I understand. You're talking about the street lighting.
Yeah, it says decorative street lighting. I think it was.
Yeah, I apologize. Let me rephrase that. It is going to go right off the back of sidewalk, and it will be spaced along with, and that'll be part of the DRB review with the streetscape, as that'll be spaced in with the gates to the homes and the shrubbery and the other improvements there.
What will be the intent of the Pocket Park? How's that going to look?
What's that?
Is it going to be passive? Is it going to be landscaped?
It'll be landscaped with some benches and pathways.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it would be walk. Somebody could walk into it, sit down and read a book if they wanted to.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Reeves.
So the conditions as outlined, are they consistent with what you need to have happen with the sidewalk?
No, ma'am, I do believe, and forgive me, Michael, do you have a copy of those conditions? I did not bring a copy with me, unfortunately. What's that? Well, I think the full conditions to make sure that we're on the same page. Oh, thank you. Yes, I believe condition 6, it said, as stated, developer shall improve Roswell Street streetscape with a minimum 4-foot planter planted with street trees, minimum 6-foot concrete sidewalk, and decorative pedestrian lighting with final approval by staff. And the tree grate is a typical condition, and as approved by DRB, which we're perfectly happy with. However, there is a condition number 16 I will ask you to reference. Landscape strips along Roswell Street and Cotton Alley shall be planted with an even mix of overstory shade trees and understory trees as approved by DRB. Overstory trees shall be offset a minimum 15 feet from the face of homes and a minimum 15 feet from overhead utilities. We do have an issue with condition 16 because we don't have 30 feet between units 2 and 3. We have 24 between the homes and the power lines. So that's an issue, but back to your question, Ms. Reeves, condition 6, we would like to ask for an amendment to that we do a 4-foot planter, 6-foot sidewalk with final approval by staff and maintain existing streetscape around the proposed pocket park in Cotton Alley. I think that's about as concise as I could make.
And that's the part that's inconsistent with the condition.
Our request is inconsistent with the conditions as written. Again, now, number 11, we are amenable to dedicating half of Cotton Alley. I believe Michael touched on that. Today, this property owns to the center of Cotton Alley. The other half of Cotton Alley is a public street. Condition 11 seeks to correct that and ask Mr. Levitan to dedicate his half of Cotton Alley to the city for maintenance. We are certainly amenable to that, but I think the staff is concerned that if that would happen, that might trigger the city to replace that brick sidewalk with concrete, which, as I stated, we would like to leave it as is, but we would defer to the staff and to council on condition 11. We're more than happy to dedicate that and make it a full public street, or we can leave it like it is.
I'm not sure our conditions line up exactly as your conditions do.
I'm sorry.
Number 15 on our page is number 16 as you read it.
Interesting. Well, thank you for pointing that out. So let's make sure we are on the same page with these conditions tonight. For sure. I'm not sure. Did you renumber something, Michael, or did something maybe get maybe?
Number 11 has been removed.
That's why. So when I brought up number 11, Michael's beat me to it. He's removed it. So we're consistent there.
And number 15 is the one that you read about the 15-foot setback for the utilities.
It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
How would you propose that be phrased? Because you only need a variance in a couple of areas. So how would you propose that be phrased?
you mean the new 15, my 16? I would say a minimum of 20 feet from the face of homes to the overhead utility shall be provided with final approval of landscape materials by DRB. We can meet that.
So increase the amount of distance for the from the face of the homes, because it's 15 here, and you're saying.
Well, it's 15 and 15 is 30. I would say do 20 total instead of 30 total. And that would give us the ability to work with Georgia Power. We are a certain degree subject to what they will do, but also I do believe we can get some trees in there with help from staff and DRB. It's not that we don't want to plant trees. We're not asking to remove that condition. We're just asking for some flexibility with the spatial constraints we have given the power lines.
Do we have clarity on the conditions?
I think we have clarity on what Mr. Owens wants. So like, we'll want to hear from staff too.
Staff?
Mr. Mayor, because maybe a condition was taken out of the one that's in our packet, I'm just sensitive to what we're voting for. So,
Well, we're not voting yet.
yeah, but when we do cast a vote, you know,
Right.
there's apparently two versions of the recommendations, so.
So were you wanting to ask staff about anything? Well, then we should probably ask staff.
Mr. Mayor, I will take responsibility for that confusion. I'm looking at the planning commission conditions, not the city council recommending conditions. So that confusion is on me, and I apologize for that. Happy to work through that with you all however you see fit to make sure that we're on the same page with that. I believe context, and substance, we're on the same mind. I believe just the numbering is the issue.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, Chris, I'd ask you to go number by number on the list of 26 conditions that we are looking at and point out each individual one where there's a change request on your behalf, as I see number 6 being the first one, 8, but then you say 11's been removed, and then we're at 17. Just run down the list.
Yes, sir, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Do you have a full list of the conditions, Michael, that council's looking at? Yeah, and I won't mark that. I just want to use it to guide through. Okay, so, yes, sir. So, yeah, condition number 1 is obviously agreeable.
You just skip right to the ones that are not.
Fair enough, fair enough. Yes, condition number 6, and that is your number 6.
Yep.
So we would prefer that to read, developer shall improve Roswell Street streetscape with a minimum 4-foot planter strike planted with street trees, minimum 6-foot concrete sidewalk and decorative pedestrian lighting with final approval by staff.
All right, hold on. That's not what's on here. That's not what's on here. Chris, this is what was handed to us tonight before the meeting.
I apologize, I was looking at the full list. You're referring to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because if we
So
don't,
let's do that.
a 4-foot planter and a 6-foot sidewalk.
Gotcha. Okay, 2-foot planter. We are amenable to a 4-foot planter. I know this red line says 2.
Yeah.
We're amenable to a 4-foot planter, planted with ground cover shrubs and low trees compatible with overhead utility lines. That's perfect. Minimum 6-foot concrete sidewalk, decorative pedestrian lighting with final approval by staff.
Okay.
Yeah. As it's written on this version, except for, we will widen that planter to 4 feet instead of the 2 feet red line.
And then number 8,
We're comfortable with that.
well, that's your request. It's not,
And that is consistent with our request, that we maintain the existing streetscape planter and
Got it.
sidewalk.
and then I got a number 15.
Okay, now,
Correct me if you changed anything between,
now in the red line I'm looking at, 15 is not there, but let's go to that 15 that you're referring to.
yeah, there's no red line on this.
Yes, sir.
Change
Currently-
to 20-foot total.
We would request 20 feet total, but as long as there's some flexibility there, we can meet 24 today, total.
Well, the condition says 30. You're saying 20, which I wrote down, and now you're saying 24.
I
So
can
don't-
meet 24, that's greater than 20,
But less than 30.
but less than 30.
Wait, I'm sorry, what condition?
Number 15.
Your number 15.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't say anything about 20 feet or anything. Line preserve landscape strips along Roswell Street, town alley shall be planted with even mix of multi-story shade trees. And it says,
It's,
said a minimum of 15 feet.
Will you make sure that what you're looking at hasn't removed the original number 11?
Mr. Brady, which number is that on your list? 15. That's consistent with Mr. Woodman's list, and that's what we're looking at. And that is the one, we have no concern whatsoever with the substance of that. We just don't have 30 feet all the way, 15 plus 15 all the way. So we're asking for some flexibility with that horizontal distance is all.
Yeah, 30 to 24. Okay, next.
believe number 17. Well, let me make sure the numbering's consistent. One moment. It's actually your number 16. Existing power lines along Russell Street frontage shall be relocated horizontally. So we would ask to strike place underground. If Georgia Power agrees and offers to pay for it, we're happy about that. But I just don't see that happening. So if I believe there's an or there, so if you're comfortable with it, we are. But to be clear, I don't think the undergrounding is just going to be that feasible. I believe that's the only remaining item.
All right. Thank you.
Apologies for the confusion of the numbering. Michael was 2 steps ahead of me, and I got you off pace. That's my fault.
Do we have any other questions? Are we ready for a motion?
We still need to hold the rest of the public hearing.
My apologies. Do we have any public comment cards?
Yes, we do. Francine Taylor?
Just to clarify, is this in favor?
Sorry, yes, this is in favor.
Before she starts, Mayor and Council, I want to go ahead and let you know, there's only 37 seconds left in favor. So if she's speaking in favor, if you want to consider extending equally for both sides, or you can leave her at 37 seconds. I just wanted to go ahead and preemptively note that.
Do you need, how long do you think you need to speak in favor?
I have this debate club. I can go fast.
2 minutes? Everybody amenable to 2 minutes? Okay.
And please state your name and address for the record.
Francine
Thank you.
Taylor, 2017 Hidden Alley. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and staff, thank you for your time. I thought that since I have not been shy about voicing my concerns about this development in the past, it's only appropriate that I step up and voice my support. I want to say thank you to Mr. Levitan, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Owens, and especially to staff. They have heard our concerns, they've addressed them, and I greatly appreciate that. As the neighbor of this development, there will be some disruption, but I think it will be an excellent improvement and a better use of that particular piece of real estate than the previous commercial was. And that's it. Thank you again.
Thank you, Matt. Nice job.
Is there anyone else, any more time available than the 2 minutes?
There is.
Is there anyone else that wants to come forward and speak in favor? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Now, do I have a motion from council?
Oh, in opposition. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
If you're here and would like to speak in opposition to this opportunity, please come forward at this time. I do not see anyone coming forward at this time. We'll close public comment, and I will call for a motion.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion this evening to approve Z-25-10/V-25-22 Levitan/75 and 91 Roswell Street with the following changes. I'm going to start with condition number 6, as noted this evening. Developer shall improve Roswell streetscapes with a minimum of a 4-foot planter and a minimum of 6-foot concrete sidewalk, and the rest of the language will stay per staff. Condition number 8, developer shall maintain existing Cotton Alley streetscapes planter and sidewalk. Landscape improvements in areas shall be subject to final approval by staff. Condition number 15, change to a total of 24 square feet from 30. And number 16, add the word or, I believe you said, Mr. Owens, horizontal. Horizontal in regards to placement of the utilities. Power line.
And that would be striking or placed underground?
Yes.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I would just say that I agree with the young lady that came up to speak. It is a better project. And I think we've seen in the city, when we work together with the applicants and the community together to talk about this, yeah, that office building was a hard one to pass, but we were kind of tied you know, there's only so much we can push back on. But the applicants were very much in favor of wanting to be good neighbors. Who wants to build an office building? Everybody hates you. So I think, wait, never mind. No, I appreciate the process this went through, and I know it wasn't a quick one, and I know it wasn't a cheap one. So I'm very supportive and happy that we've gotten to this point. So thank you.
Councilwoman Reeves.
You know, the tighter we get squeezed for space and for land and development possibilities here in Alpharetta, the more that we are starting to see people come out and say, hey, you know, wait a minute, I think this is going to impact me. And I think this is a really good example of our citizens taking advantage of all the opportunities that the city provides to come forward and speak. And it's really truly a testament to our staff and to the developers here in our area that they're listening. Because you look at that project and you look at how it's, you know, kind of transitioned over time, and you can see that people were listened to, and that the product that's coming out looks like it's going to fit in exactly. So I'm appreciative of everybody involved. It makes voting on this a lot easier. So grateful.
Councilman Brady.
I'm going to say something. Just also, thank you so much for you guys. So you guys went through a lot. I know it's difficult to kind of put together the office and everything that's there. For everyone who walks there, we're happy to see residential home ownership on the corner, and just more people kind of walking by. So welcome to the neighborhood.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're
Have a
welcome.
good night.
Next item is PH-26-06, resolution for the Alpharetta Annual Capital Improvement Element Update. Director Cook.
Mayor, can I go ahead and read the resolution?
Pardon?
May I go ahead and read the resolution?
Yes, you should probably read the resolution.
A resolution by Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia for transmittal of the fiscal year 2025 capital improvement element of the comprehensive plan.
I was distracted by Kathy having a beard. My agenda said Kathy was presenting.
Forgot to share this one. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, sir.
As Ms. Eswine had previously mentioned, we're seeking your authorization to transmit the fiscal year 2025 capital improvement element and annual report to the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. We do this annually because the Georgia Planning Act requires local governments utilizing impact fee systems to provide annual updates of their CIE in accordance with the state's minimum standards, procedures, and impact fee compliance requirements. So with that being said, if you have any questions regarding tonight's item, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Do we have any questions for George, not Kathy? See, you did so great. They didn't even have questions, George. Well done.
Thank you.
Ms. Horeski, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not.
However, if anyone wants to come forward, now's your chance. I know, that's not a bad thing. So we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council? Do we have any questions for staff? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Motion to approve the resolution, Alpharetta Annual Capital Improvement Element CIE update as presented by George.
Second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second by Councilman Dorito. All those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously, so we'll move right along. The following items, that's what it says, it's been deferred. Is that the same one that was deferred before? Yeah. Oh, excuse me. fellas. So next, we move on to new business, the purchase approval for managed security services renewal. Director Montgomery, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'm requesting approval for a renewal of a managed security service provider contract through their reseller Veristor Corp. In the amount of $94,234.74. For those who weren't on council last year, we had a bit of an abrupt changeover amongst our security team. We took the opportunity to reevaluate that team, and were able to successfully, so far at least, reclassify and reorganize that team. And that allowed us to free up some money to bring in a third-party managed security provider at no additional cost to the city. And that has proven to be true. And so this has been a great benefit for us to have a third-party company that is evaluating all of our alerts, all of our logs, and providing a great service for us. We get almost hourly alerts from that to look at things. The good news is, as far as I know, 100% of them have been false positives. We've had no critical alerts come in the last year, so that's a good sign as well. Our methodology of a defense in depth has proven to work so far, and so in addition to the day-to-day sort of managing of our logs and alerting, we also have an incident response that is a part of the renewal, and they also provide sort of a concierge service where we do monthly meetings to review the entire environment and talk about anything that's of value. And an example of that, we got an email from this company today of a new service that's going to be provided, included in the cost tiers to us. So we're meeting with them tomorrow to discuss the aspects of that new service. Just so the public knows, the quote itself has been redacted. There are portions of this that are protected per Georgia Code, and so we've taken the ability to do that to protect ourselves. So with that, I'll take any questions you may.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Montgomery? Thanks, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment cards on this item?
No, sir, we do not.
I was going to say, everybody's on our payroll at this point. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment. They may. They may. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve the managed services renewal agreement with Vernex Corporation, the amount not to exceed $94,234.74, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Dorito, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it passes unanimously. So we move on to the next item. Next item is contract and purchase approval for Webbridge Road Phase 3 shrubs ground cover. Director Sisevich.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Phase 3 is basically the bridge section over Big Creek. This section is basically go from Alpharetta High School to the tunnel into Webbridge Road. Plant the shrubs. Trees are being planted. It's already been done already. So we're going to plant over 2,000 shrubs. That includes ground covers, some hollies, ornamental grasses, and work will be done by the end of April. Russell is our maintenance vendor, so they're in charge of planting and make sure it stays survive. So watering is also included.
Awesome. Any questions for Pete? Thank you, sir. We have no public, so I'll close public comment.
Thanks, Adam.
Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor. I have a motion to approve the Webbridge Road Phase 3 shrubs and ground cover with Russell Landscape for said approved application in an amount not to exceed $104,261.33 for the purchase, installation, and watering of shrubs, ground cover, and sod at the newly constructed Webb Bridge Road corridor improvements, Alfred High School to the Greenway access point, and with authorization for the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Have a motion from Councilwoman
Second.
Reeves, second by Councilman Brady. Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilwoman?
Thrilled to see one more step happening along Webb Bridge Road. Thank you very much.
All those in favor, please vote yes. And it passes unanimously, so we'll move on to Pete's next. Request for proposal 26-111, Mid-Broadwell Road Culvert and Sidewalk Construction. Pete?
Yes,
You got the floor.
This culvert needs to be replaced, which is just west of Jennifer Oaks subdivision. We will be closing Mid-Broadwell Road the months of May and June. Sorry, June and July after school is out.
The whole road?
Excuse me?
The whole road?
Just that section right there. There's gonna be a big hole.
Both lanes, though?
So you're gonna wrap around. You're gonna go down from the roundabout up Bethany, take Mayfield into the city.
Okay.
We've already worked with the police and fire on this already, so they're aware and planning accordingly. School is out, so it's the time of the year to do it. We're also leveraging T-Splosh funds. So this was initially a stormwater project when it first got listed, but working with the county, this is classification of a culvert replacement to repair a road. So we're gonna leverage our T-Splosh account for that, as well as extend the sidewalk all the way down to the intersection. We went through an RFP process and conducted interviews. Through the interview process, the number one candidate was Summit Construction. They have done plenty of work with us in the city. They acknowledge that they're going to go off like gangbusters when the road is closed, to get as much work as possibly done, knowing that the culvert needs to be done before school starts. So we have school buses going over it. So that's the first focus. So the cost came in at $1,547,878.50. Answer any questions?
Have any questions? Mr. Sisevich? Councilman Height?
How do you anticipate this affecting traffic patterns? Well, there'll be one lane closed?
It will be closed completely.
Closed.
Unless you're gonna- Yes,
Okay.
closed completely.
So it may be a public safety question, but when we had the emergency culvert repair over there on Mayfield near Rex Grizzle's house, people wanted to know how they get around, and they were cutting through neighborhoods and stuff. So that being said, we can plan in advance what we think the traffic's going to do.
Well, the good news is summertime, traffic is much lighter for us. Also going off of when Rucker Road was closed for 2 summers, when we were doing that project, we were able to work with public safety, fire, and police to meet the times they needed. As well as as talking with Brad, he stated that, we got the Milton Fire Department on that other side right there, so if we need assistance, we could call for them as well. So it's not ideal, I get it, but there is coverage available.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No public comment? There's no public. Do I have a motion from council?
Mayor,
Councilwoman Reeves.
recommend we award RFP 26-111 for Mid-Broadwell Culvert and Sidewalk Construction to Summit Construction and Development with a contract term of 330 calendar days and an amount not to exceed $1,547,878.50. Authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dorito, I believe that was. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it passes unanimously, so we'll move right along to the next, which is a request for proposal 26-109, North Park Lighting Project Land and Water Conservation Fund grant funding. Director Rogers, welcome back.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. It's always a pleasure to be here. We're requesting tonight approval of the RFP 26-109, the North Park Lighting Project. This is to replace the all the wooden poles left in North Park and the light replacements on the North Park softball fields 1 through 4, the North Miracle League Field, the multi-purpose number 2 field, as well as the tennis and pickleball courts. This particular project has 50% funding from the Land and Water Conservation Fund, so the city's total commitment is, scroll up, the city's commitment is $369,905, as well as then we're getting that from the Land and Water Conservation Fund as well. We're particularly happy about this because the playability will be much better with the new lighting on the fields, and we won't have any more wooden poles in North Park, and so we're glad to get rid of those. We had 2 qualified vendors that submitted. The PSG was the highest scoring and the lowest cost of all of those 2 proposals. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Have any questions for Director Rogers? Great job. No questions.
Thank you.
No public? Do we have a motion?
Yes, Mayor, make a motion, council approve the award of the contract to PSG Energy Services LLC in a total amount of $739,809.41, with the city's portion not to exceed $369,905 for RFP 26-109 North Park Lighting Project with LWCF grant funding, pole and light replacement on North Park softball fields 1 to 4 and light replacements on rectangular fields, NMML field, tennis, pickleball courts, and for the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Motion. Motion by Councilman Hype, second by Councilman Brady. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Next item is a resolution for, it does pass unanimously, is the resolution for the condemnation of parcel 5 of the Mid-Broadwell Road Culvert and Sidewalk Project. Ms. Eswine, please read that resolution aloud.
Resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta authorizing the city attorney to exercise the city's powers of eminent domain to acquire certain interests in property situated in the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, for public purposes, including public transportation purposes. So we have 3 of these condemnation resolutions on the agenda tonight. So the first one for you is what we refer to as parcel number 5. This is located at 1285 Mid-Broadwell Road. And what we would be needing for this, what's contemplated in the resolution and the associated documents, is a temporary construction easement of 435.8 square feet, and the just and adequate compensation be paid into the registry of the court is $2,550. And we would ask for that to be approved so that the project that Director Sisevich presented earlier can move forward in a timely manner.
Is everyone clear on that? Do we have any questions? Is that all we had? Presentation? Okay, thank you. So, no public? Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I make a motion that council approve the condemnation of parcel 5, the Mid-Broadwell Road Culvert and Sidewalk Project as referenced by the resolution referred to by City Attorney Eswine.
Second. Councilman Hypes, and I couldn't tell who was the fastest. Mayor Pro Tem. There were a couple down there. That's fine. We'll go with Mayor Pro Tem. As a second, any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it does pass unanimously. So we'll move on to the resolution condemnation of parcel 6 of the Mid-Broadwell Road Culvert Sidewalk Project. Ms. Eswine, please read that resolution aloud.
A resolution by the Mayor and Council of the City of Alpharetta authorizing the city attorney to exercise the city's powers of eminent domain to acquire certain interests in property situated in the city of Alpharetta, Georgia, for public purposes, including public transportation purposes. So this one is for parcel 6 for the same project. The location of this particular parcel, which we refer to as parcel 6, is located at 1325 Mid-Broadwell Road. What's needed here is 621.22 square feet for a permanent easement and 5,714.79 feet in a temporary construction easement, with the total just and adequate compensation to be paid into the registry of the court totaling $5,750.
Thank you, ma'am. No public? Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion tonight to approve resolution on condemnation of parcel 6 of the Mid-Broadwell Road Culvert and Sidewalk Project as presented by the city attorney.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second, I believe, by Councilman Hypes. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. And it is unanimous. Move on to the resolution for the condemnation of parcel 8 of the Mid-Broadwell Road Culvert Sidewalk Project. Ms. Eswine, you have another resolution to read aloud.
A resolution by the mayor and council of the city of Alpharetta authorizing the city attorney to exercise the city's powers of eminent domain to acquire certain interests in property situated in the city of Alpharetta, Georgia for public purposes, including public transportation purposes. So this is the final of the parcels that we need for condemnation at this time. This is parcel 8, which is located at 1066 Gramercy Lane. Here we need 607.72 square feet in a permanent easement and 1,518.91 square feet in a temporary construction easement, with just and adequate compensation totaling $4,450.
Thank you, Ms. Eswine. We have no public, so there'll be no public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor, move to approve resolution to condemn property interest in tax parcel number 22-433-01-202-1116 at 1066 Gramercy Lane, Alpharetta, Georgia, as outlined by the city attorney.
Motion by Councilman Dorito. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Hypes. Oh, okay. Second by Councilman. All those in favor, please vote yes. And it passes unanimously. That'll wrap up that portion of tonight's meeting. We have no public, so there'll be no public comment. Do we have any reports? Don't see any reports coming forward, so let's adjourn this meeting. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilman Dorito. All those in favor of adjourning, yes.
I saw your email.